Welcome to Between the Lines, coming today from Davos, from the Leaders Forum powered by Poland. I'm Urszula Gacek, and my guest today is Maharaja Sambhajiraje Chhatrapati, former member of the upper chamber of the Indian Parliament, a public figure known for his engagement in questions of governance, democracy and social cohesion in one of the world's most diverse societies. Sambhajiraje, welcome to the programme.
Morning.
We meet here in Davos with an international audience, and we look at India, which manages its relationships with the United States, with Europe, with China, with Russia simultaneously, with a long policy of non-alignment. How and why?
India has its own tradition, it has its own heritage, and right from the pre-independence or maybe post-independence, India has always maintained its non-alignment, non-proliferation stance. It has acted always what is the best for the country. By getting stuck to just one alignment could have had a lot of problems. And the Indian, the natural the natural tradition which you see is they've always acted upon the non-alignment and non-proliferation policy, the strategy, and given the best for the country. And it has not just come by one prime minister or the present prime minister. It's been a tradition. It's been a tradition post-independence, right from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to maybe the present prime minister Narendra Modi ji also. So it's more of what I would put in such a way is don't get allied to someone, but do the best for your country.
But still, Minister Sikorski, Poland's foreign minister, at a recent visit to India, basically acknowledged that the view of India and Poland and Europe generally differs, especially with respect to Russia at the moment. And that, I think, is very difficult for Europeans to understand.
Well, I wouldn't be the right person to comment on behalf of the government of India, especially the foreign policy. I think if it comes from directly the ministry, they would be the right people. But as an individual, as Sambhajiraje Chhatrapati, even if it differs, India has always seen to that ally at an angle, ally at a position where it would benefit India at large. I agree to a certain extent that there could be a little difference of opinion or the way India is projected in the European Union, but India at large looks at what is good for the country and acts what is good for the country at large.
Could that be viewed in today's times as opportunism?
India, if you see from the last so many years, it has gone to thick and thin. A lot of invaders had invaded India, right from my forefather. In fact, I come from the family of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who was the emperor of India.
Indeed, a royal lineage.
Yes. And so he fought for the motherland. So it's just not come, this tradition or this heritage has just not come all of a sudden. So it's been a practice, it's been a precedence which the Indian government has been following before the independence and post-independence. Yes, to an extent, maybe the other countries may feel the policy of India could be a little different and not acceptable, but India is happy with what they've been doing for so many years post-independence.
So to sum up maybe this discussion on the non-alignment, India is very reluctant to be pushed into picking a side, you would agree?
Well, again, the question is almost similar.
Yes.
But what I generally feel is like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. I always like to stress on him because I am there because of him. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj also formed the Swarajya. Swarajya is the self-rule. The self-rule is, the people's democracy. And that is why India is one of the largest democracies also in the world. And this has been being followed for so many years, because we've seen a lot of difficult times. And now when we are going to, as the superpower, we need to be standing on our own legs because we have the potential, we have the credibilities, we have the assets. We've got everything which we could be the superpower. And so being a superpower, that doesn't mean, putting someone down, but thinking for the best of your country, how India could be at the top.
You mention democracy, and indeed India is the world's largest democracy. Surprisingly, Indonesia is the second largest, but the third largest democracy, the United States. Well, I didn't think I would expect to say this, but we see a certain degree of backsliding in the United States. We have President Trump in a recent interview saying that the only thing that limits his power is his own morality. Now, of course, he said this in the context of international law, but at home he is repeatedly bypassing or sidelining Congress and other electoral checks on presidential power. Is the way that that democracy is behaving, is that a topic of public discourse or concern in India?
Your President Trump is talked all over the world these days, but I would not specifically comment on his style of functioning. Every democracy has its own pluses and minuses. We as Indians, although being one of the largest democracy, also going through a lot of difficulties because you see a lot of politicians, a lot of institutions, a lot of people at large also are not the same. What you see of your fingers, 10 fingers, are all different. So every nation has its own problems. When we are facing a lot of problems by ourselves, but we are very proud of our democracy. So what Mr. Trump is doing at US, and that's their cup of tea. But we are trying to make our democracy, India's democracy, very strong, very acceptable to the entire world.
And tell me then, what are the major challenges that you face today as the world's largest democracy?
It's also an asset, but it's also a big problem, that is the population. Because to satisfy each and every person, to educate the common man, although we have a lot of skilled labor, even the unskilled labor is there, all your pluses when the population comes. But I think the democracy also needs to have a population control, and where you can actually practice what you have envisaged for as India at large.
Democracy has its challenges. One thing that I don't find India doing is you're not preaching. You don't try to impose your own values on other states. When you look at Europe, very often the alliances, sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, whether they are diplomatic, trade or security partnerships, are underpinned with some at least lip service being paid to values like democracy, human rights, rule of law. India has shied away from that kind of approach.
Well, India has its own problems, which I said. It's a diversified country. It's got a lot of caste, a lot of religions. It's got a lot of linguistic states where you need to gel it properly.
Sorry, if I'm correct, there are over 22 official languages in the parliament.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's a very cultural, strong state, and to get everything put together is not a small thing. So sometimes the world may feel we are not expressive. The world may feel why is India being a very balanced attitude. But more or less, what we feel is, we have to stand on our own legs. We have to solve our own problems. We have to give the best to the new generation. That's one of the reasons, you could feel, the world could feel, India is not expressive. What the states in the countries in European Union are very expressive. So maybe how do I put it? In European Union, you also have a lot of problems like migration, your individuality, and some cultural problems could be there. Like India also has its pluses. Like for example, I always proudly say, because of the inheritance of my forefathers, not me, I'm inheriting the people at large. like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, his ancestor Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. We venerated all the qualities, and that has been imbibed by the people at large. But one example which I quote, when Polish people were attacked by then Hitler, and then they had to flee all over the world. So
yes, I must say, I cannot not comment that you are actually wearing a Polish medal.
Yeah, I'll come to that point. So what happened was in the year 1943, when Polish people came to India, because they needed a shelter. And so one of the two families who gave them a shelter was my family from Kolhapur, and the Jamnagar family gave 500 boys the shelter. But the Kolhapur family gave 5,000 Polish people the shelter from 1943 to 1948. They all lived there. In fact, those who were surviving, we brought them to Poland, brought them to India maybe 2 years back. So this was a cultural exchange which India also had because of the inheritance of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and the family. And then that is why the Poland government gave me this award called the Benemerito Award, which is the second highest award. It's saying promoting Poland.
So not only is there a history of a very diverse culture, which imposes certain rules of cooperation between so many ethnicities, religions, languages, regions, but also you have shown that in the past India has been open to add to that society with migrants who have been in need. And you cannot not fail to notice that in terms of where we are in Europe today, in terms of what was for many previous years, let's say a social experiment, some would say, but a move towards multiculturalism, towards diversity, that seems to be raising various concerns. We have a rise of radical right-wing parties, people who are xenophobic. In Europe, European societies are struggling on how to remain diverse. What can we learn from India, and what can we learn from your own lineage, because you have always associated your lineages associated with restraint, responsibility and governing a deeply diverse society?
So that is the beauty of India. India has diversified religion, languages, caste, and we've seen a lot of innovators, who had invaded India, and we have seen to that they also left India, and that has now, given us the strength that we need to be culturally strong. So, irrespective of religion, caste, and creed, irrespective of the languages you speak in India, we come under one umbrella. That's India or Bharat. So that makes us very strong. And one thing which I would say is a little different than the other countries is the humanitarianism what the Indians have. We think beyond sometimes the caste, creed, or the religion. Is like when the Polish came, my family never thought these are Polish people and what are we going to gain from it? It was the humanity. Even during the COVID time, India was one of the strongest countries to help everything other than only India, because although we had such a big population, but it was our responsibility that we had our humanitarian being a humanitarian perspective, that we give it to the world also. So that makes a little special than the other countries, maybe even the European Union, who are facing a lot of migration, the individuality or the right wing, what you mentioned. Certainly we do have, but it's not what you all are facing. So I think the tradition, the precedents which we have got generation to generation actually helps us.
But what about, we're talking about migration, we've talked about inward migration and the openness that India has shown in the past. Are there challenges now that you face from incoming migrants?
Well, we do have challenges. I don't deny that we don't have challenges, but there is a proper system laid out. There are various ways where the migrants are, how the migrants are allowed, and how they can be officially made them as the part of India. We did have a lot of problems initially, But I think everything is all now sorted out, and we are all happy living as India.
What about the other direction? What about talent still leaving India, especially in the IT sector? It's a sector which India is very keen to promote. You have potentially the largest digital economy in the world, I think, the largest number of internet users, very strongly now focused on developing high-tech AI. Are you able to keep that talent in India? Are they escaping to the United States, to Silicon Valley?
Well, initially it was, people used to go overseas for the jobs, or they used to always feel there is a better exposure there. But things are changing, and there are so many jobs which have been created in India. The common man feels India could be my home than going overseas for jobs. There's definitely a drastic change compared to employment. New industries coming up, India having a liberal the economic policy. So yes, there's no harm also going out and studying or doing jobs. But I think one should believe is you should think globally, but act locally. So go to global, you see, move across the world, but come back and deliver it to your people where you're born. And that is India for us. So I think times have been changing, and India is standing on its own legs.
You mentioned that you have a very liberal approach to the economy, and especially to this very exciting developing new sector. The European Union seems to be, to some, over-regulating at the cost of innovation. On the other side of the Atlantic, we have America, which doesn't want to see any limits on AI, on big tech. Has India, as it has in its foreign policy, found its own unique way of managing its economy, of managing this new sector, finding a balance between regulation and protection, for example, of citizens' rights and privacy?
Think, getting into so many details, I would say we have the urge to, and the urge is, we have to survive, we have to do something extraordinary. And I think that's the reason you see a lot of in India being talked as the superpower, India being talked as one of the most developing countries. We have a lot of challenges, there's no question about that. But to overcome these challenges, the urge, what is required, I think the Indian government, the present government or the previous government, they have it, and that's the change which you see than the other countries. Like for maybe Europe or the America, you already have so much. And so for us, the population to give at last to everyone, a lot of things need to be done. And a lot of that urge needs to be, coming up.
But also you have so much talent that you can harness as well.
Absolutely. We have the talent. We have a lot of, if you see the skilled workers or the unskilled workers, you see the skilled workers also are on a higher side now, where you don't need to get people from abroad. You can have your in-house system. And that is why the IT sector or the medical sector or all the sectors overall are flourishing in India.
So, Leaders Forum, powered by Poland here in Davos, and the medal.
Yes.
So you mentioned your grandfather's amazing work to save Polish children, Polish women and children during World War II. Tell me how it comes that you are wearing that medal, just as your grandfather's representative or something else?
It's an honor which I'm wearing for me. My forefathers, 100 years back, they had the vision, or they had the humanitarian perspective that yes, Polish people then were under difficulty, and then they gave them the shelter. We never call them as the refugees. We always call them as our guest. So I always say I'm a friend of Poland, and if given me a choice after India, which is a country which you would select, that is Poland.
And when were you actually granted this
This
medal?
was, I think, it's 2022. The External Affairs Minister, Mr. Rao, I suppose.
Mr. Rao.
So he'd come, he ordered me this Benemeritum medal. So whenever I go to Poland, whenever there's a official function or maybe an interview with the Polish people, I see to that, I wear this medal with pride.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for shedding some light on what is a complex, fascinating history of both your own family, of your nation, and the fact that we face various challenges across the world. But India, I think, is finding its own very unique way, and I wish you all the best in your journey.
Thank you so
in
much.
that.
Dziękuję.
Namaste.